Hello, boys and girls. We're going to be reading another chapter of Black Beauty today. So there are 2 chapters for today. You should have already read chapter 14, James Howard. This is chapter 15, The Old Ostler. Can you say ostler? Ostler. In our book, it is written this way. In the version that I have online, there is a silent in front of the word ostler. So you'll see it's spelled 2 ways, but it's the same word. This is a person who takes care of horses that came to a hotel. Now, about 100 years ago, this book was written over 100 years ago, people would use horses to get to a hotel and then stay there. And rather than a car that stood in the parking lot, a horse has to be taken care of. So they would have a groom taking care of the horse there that is called an ostler. So let's read about it today. I'm going to present my screen. After this, it was decided by my master and mistress to pay a visit to some friends who lived about 46 miles from our home, quite a way. And James was to drive them. The first day we traveled 32 miles. There were some long, heavy hills, but James drove so carefully and thoughtfully that we were not at all harassed. He never forgot to put on the brake. That makes it sound like he's putting his foot on the brake, but that just means easing on those reins, holding back as we went downhill, nor to take it off at the right place. He kept our feet on the smoothest part of the road, and if the uphill was very long, he set the carriage wheels a little across the road. Oops. So as not to run back, and gave us a breathing. All these little things help a horse very much, particularly if he gets kind words into the bargain. We stopped once or twice on the road, and just as the sun was going down, we reached the town where we were to spend the night. We stopped at the principal hotel, which was in the marketplace. It was a very large one. We drove under an archway into a long yard, at the further end of which were the stables and the coach houses. 2 ostlers, there's that same word, but we say ostlers, came to take us out. The head ostler was a pleasant, active little man with a crooked leg and a yellow striped waistcoat. I never saw a man unbuckle a harness so quickly as he did, and with a pat and a good word, he led me to a long stable with 6 or 8 stalls in it, and 2 or 3 horses. The other man brought Ginger. James stood by while we were rubbed down and cleaned. I never was cleaned so lightly and quickly as by that little old man. When he had done, James stepped up and felt me all over, as if he thought I could not be actually thoroughly done. Thoroughly means it's completely finished in all ways. Do you think that this old man, who moved so quickly to clean, he did a really good job? Now, some of you might be thinking, like when you take a bath or shower, if you are really quick to take that bath or shower, it might not be a very good shower. You might not have really cleaned yourself thoroughly. Do any of you have parents who ask, did you clean everywhere you needed to clean? Like around your ears, around your feet? To be thorough means you get all of those spots. So James, he wasn't sure, but he found my coat as clean and smooth as silk. Well, he said, I thought I was pretty quick, and our John quicker still, but you do beat all I ever saw for being quick and thorough at the same time. That's pretty hard to do, to be quick, but also thorough. Thorough meaning he did a great job all over. Practice makes perfect, said the crooked little ostler. And 'twould be a pity if it didn't. 40 years practice and not perfect? Ha ha, that would be a pity. And as to being quick, why bless you, that is only a matter of habit. If you get into the habit of being quick, it is just as easy as being slow. That's interesting. Do any of you work quickly through your things, like your assignments on Bright Thinker? That is a good thing to do, to move quickly through your work, but only if you're also doing thorough work, where you do a good job at each of those. And he says, as long as you get used to it, it's just as easy to do it quickly as it is to do it slow. So if you start to get used to going from one assignment to the next, finish your history, finish your science, finish your literature, finish your math, finish your literacy, just move from one to the next. That's just as easy. You just have to get used to finishing them all at once. Now, if you get into the habit, of being quick, it is just as easy as being slow. Easier, I should say. In fact, I don't agree with my health to be hulking over a job twice as long as it needs to take. That makes sense. I want to be quick with it so that you're not leaning over and getting tired from the long work. Bless you, I couldn't whistle if I crawled over my work as some folks do. You see, I have been about horses ever since I was 12 years old, in hunting stables and racing stables. And being small, you see, I was jockey for several years. But at the Goodwood, you see, the turf was very slippery and my poor larkspur got a fall. And I broke my knee, and so of course I was of no more use there. But I could not live without horses. Of course I couldn't. So I took to the hotels. And I can tell you, it is a downright pleasure to handle an animal like this. They're well-bred, they're well-mannered, well cared for. Bless ye, I can tell how a horse is treated. Give me the handling of a horse for 20 minutes, and I'll tell you what sort of groom he has had. Look at this one, talking about Black Beauty. Pleasant, quiet, turns about just as you want him. He holds up his feet to be cleaned out, or anything else you please to wish. Then you'll find another horse, fidgety, fretty, won't move the right way, or starts across the stall, tosses up his head as soon as you come near him. Sounds like Ginger used to be. Lays his ears and seems afraid of you, or else squares about you with his heels. Poor things. I know what sort of treatment they have had. If they are timid, it makes them start or shy. If they are high-mettled, it makes them vicious or dangerous. That's what happens with Ginger, right? Their tempers are mostly made when they are young. Bless you, they're like children. Train them up in the way they should go, as the good book says, and when they are old, they will not depart from it if they have a chance. So that's part of the Bible, and he's saying, horses, if they're trained up right, they'll continue doing good work. Also with children, your parents are doing everything they can to train you up right so that you'll continue with these good habits as you get older and older. And once you're older, you're going to be so grateful that your parents taught you lessons and expected a lot of you. And hopefully you'll be grateful to teachers as well for having good expectations of you so that you're starting to do things in the right way. The older that you get, it'll stick with you. I like to hear you talk, said James. That's the way we lay it down at home, at our master's. Who is your master, young man? If it be a proper question, I should judge he is a good one from what I see. He is Squire Gordon of Birtwick Park, the other side of the Beacon Hills, said James. Ah, so. I have heard tell of him. He's a fine judge of horses, ain't he? The best rider in the country. Oh, sorry, the county. I believe he is, said James, but he rides very little now, since the poor young master was killed. This is Squire Gordon's son, remember. Ah, poor gentleman. I read all about it in the paper at the time. A fine horse was killed too, wasn't there? Remember Rob Roy, Black Beauty's brother? Yes, said James. He was a splendid creature, brother to this one, pointing to Black Beauty, and just like him. Pity, said the old man. 'Twas a bad place to leave, if I remember. Just a little thin fence at the top. A steep bank down to the stream, wasn't it? No chance for a horse to see where he's going. Now, I am for bold riding as much as any man. But still, there are some leaps that only a very knowing old huntsman has any right to take. A man's life and a horse's life are worth more than a fox's tail. Meaning, you shouldn't risk your life for something small like getting a fox. That's not worth risking your life. At least I should say they ought to. This is what Duchess would agree with too. During this time, the other man had finished Ginger and had brought our corn, and James and the old man left the stable together. I like that old ostler. He is a wise man, don't you think? He does his work quickly, but thoroughly, and he is a believer that if you train a horse right, they're going to continue with that. I hope that you are enjoying the story, and if you've got a book that you're following along with it, and I know some of you I've talked to have even been reading ahead, which is wonderful. Feel free to do that if you want. I will see you all later. Enjoy